Hey, I wanted to tell you about how the team came together that is actually producing the show Stories from the Shack. There's two other guys I'm working with, James L. Rubart and Gary Verrill. Jim Rubart actually has been a friend of mine for 25 years and is now a best-selling author of Christian fiction. And is a fan of Paul's, and when I came back and was looking for somebody to help me, I went to Jim because I knew he had strong connections in the radio industry, particularly here in Seattle, because he had been an on-air DJ. So we began to talk about it, but we knew that we needed to talk to somebody who had actual production experience, large events. So a couple of years before, I had approached Gary Verrill because I wanted his band to play at an event I was doing. The reason I approached Gary is because Gary had been a worship leader. Gary actually led worship, played for Billy Graham for 15 years, and he was a worship leader at a large church. But more importantly to me, he played keyboards for Steve Miller Blues Band and Tower of Power, which makes him a very funky Hammond B3 organ player, which matters to me. So Gary, I actually couldn't afford him to play at the gig. So, but a funny thing happened the day that I went to met Gary a couple of years ago, and that is after I left my meeting with him. I went out to go in my car, and I looked down, and perched precariously on the corner of the curb was a very shiny penny, and in the middle of this, just in the middle of nowhere. Now, pennies mean a lot to me because they're my way that I've decided that God talks to me and reminds me to pray for people, but also sends me messages. I like them because pennies actually aren't worth the money they're printed on. And I think sometimes we feel that way about our own lives. And we like to think that how wonderful it would be if God noticed something that was so worthless and so powerless. And that's, I believe he does. And when I looked at that shiny penny 2 years ago, I knew that God was saying, you and Gary are going to work together. So fast forward to just about a year ago now, we approached Gary. Hey Gary, we want to talk to you about joining the team to produce his show. And the three of us then went to the local radio station, KCMS, and we pitched this idea to them, expecting them to say no, because Paul's book is controversial among Christians. And they listened, we talked to the program manager, and we went away, and that we thought would be the end of it. And 2 weeks later, they called back and said, we're in. And that shocked us, and that was our signal that God wanted us to go forward with this project, and that we've been moving on that ever since. I'll tell you more about that in the next segment.